We're now going to continue learning the Sicha of Beis Rabbeinu Bavel, printed in Sefer HaSichas Tafshin Nun Beis, page 467, Seif Daled. V'yeseda mizeh yesh leima. In addition, we can add Shehamikdash de la'osid, that the Beis HaMikdash, which will be built in the future, which actually, as Rashi and Tosfos say in Sukkah, Daf Mem Aleph, Sof Amud Aleph, page 41a, that the Beis HaMikdash is Shebonui u'Meshuchlul Yigale V'Yovei Min HaShamayim, is already built, and it will be revealed from heaven. So that Beis HaMikdash, which actually will come down from Shamayim, Yisgale Tchila, will first be revealed, B'hamokim Shenosa Mikdash V'Yoshev Shom, in the place where the Beis HaMikdash traveled and settled there, Bizman HaGolus, in the time of Golus, Beis Rabbeinu Shebavel, which is, as we explained previously, Beis Rabbeinu in Bavel. Umisham yuatak lemekoimei b'Yerushalayim, and from there, from Beis Rabbeinu Shebavel, it will move back to Yerushalayim. Hashras v'gilui hashchina b'hamikdash ma'at ha'ikri shebavel, the indwelling and the revelation of the Shekhinah in the miniature sanctuary in Bavel, Shenosa Mikdash v'Yoshev Sham, which the Beis HaMikdash moved from its original place to the Beis Rabbeinu in Bavel, Higam Keshehei Nigolim. That status is also when the Geula will arrive. Kimuvur behemshech hasugya, as is explained in the continuation of the Gemara there, she'af keshehei nigolin shchina imohen, that just like the Shechina went into Golus, so too, when the Geula will arrive, the Shechina will go out with them. Shenemar, as it says in Parshas Nitzavim, V'shav Hashem Elokecha es shavuscha, that Hashem will return your captivity. V'heishiv le'nemar ela v'shav, melamed shahakadosh baruch hu shav imohen. It doesn't say the word v'heishiv, it says v'shav, and this indicates that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will return with them. Es shavuscha kamoi im shavuscha, together with your captivity. Mi bein hagolios, from within Golus. Kloimer, that means to say, Gam berega ha'achrein de hagolus, that even at the last moments of Golus, nimtzes hashchina b'hamokim shegolu Yisrael, the Shechina is in the place where the Yidden went into Golus. Shenosa Mikdash v'Yoshev Sham, the place that the Beis HaMikdash moved to dwell there. Umisham, and from that place, Shav HaKadosh Baruch Hu im Kol B'nai Yisrael, HaKadosh Baruch Hu returns together with all the Yidden LaHamikdash of Yerushalayim, to the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim, LaHashreis u'legales b'Shechinasei la'olam va'ed, to reside and to reveal his Shekhinah for eternity. V'kiven shehakadosh Baruch Hu shavi mohem mi bein hagoliyos, and since HaKadosh Baruch Hu returns with the Yidden from Golus, mehamikdash ma'at Beis Rabbeinu shebavel, from the miniature sanctuary of Beis Rabbeinu in Bavel, Shenosa Mikdash v'Yoshev Sham, where the Mikdash originally moved and relocated there, Nimsa, so it comes out, Sheb'mokem zeh maschila v'nasis gulas hashchina, that from this place, from Beis Rabbeinu in Bavel, starts and begins the Geula of the Shechina. Hiskalusa b'chol ha'teikef, the revelation of the Shechina in its full strength, v'hashlemus, and completely, lo rak ba'ofen de mikdash ma'at, not only a miniature sanctuary, shezeu in mikdash ha'asid, but rather the full Beis HaMikdash as it will be in the future. Besignon acher, stated somewhat differently, Keshem sheshivas hashchina hi mehamokim shenimtzes v'golus. Just like the Shechina will return from its place in Golus, kach shivas migdash ha'osid, so too the return of the future Beis HaMikdash, she'inyonei hashras v'gilui hashchina, whose inyan is the indwelling of the Shechina, hu mehamokim, it will be from the place, shenasa migdash v'yoshav sham, that the Mikdash originally relocated there, bisman Golus, in the time of Golus, Shesham miskalat chila, there it will first be revealed, and from there it will move to its original place in Yerushalayim. In footnote 31, the Rebbe says, Ve'al derech shemotzinu, this is rather like we find, B'negei Sanhedrin, in reference to the Sanhedrin, the Supreme Court, Shemekoimam belishkas hagozis shabemikdash, whose place is in the hewn chamber in the Beis HaMikdash. Shebitveria hamokem achnen sheboi hoisa hasanhedrin bizman hagolus, that the Sanhedrin will return le'osid lovi, in time to come, to the Beis HaMikdash from Tiberias, which is the last place from which the Sanhedrin was exiled to. It's from there that they will return. Asidin lachse tchilo mishon netokin lamikdash, as the Rambam writes in Hilchas Sanhedrin in chapter 14. So just like the Sanhedrin will return to the Beis HaMikdash from the last place to which it was exiled, similarly the Shechina will return to the to Yerushalayim from the principal place to which the Shechina traveled, which is the Beis Rabbeinu Shebabavel. V'ulai yeshleima, and perhaps we can suggest, shemerumas v'loshen harambam, that this is hinted to in the wording of the Rambam in Hilchos Melech HaMashiach in chapter 11. The Rambam writes, Uvana Mikdash b'mekoimai, that Mashiach will build the Beis HaMikdash in his place. De lechoira, now seemingly, ma'u atzorech lahashmienu kan shabinin hamikdash hu b'mekoimai. Why is there a necessity that the Rambam adds on this place b'mekoimai, in his place? Now, b'pashtus, one may answer that in order that we should know that Mashiach is the Mashiach Vadai, one of the signs is that he will be able to specifically show where the place of the Mikdash is. This is what the Rebbe writes in footnote 34. However, uleidach, on the other hand, lama eina mefarish hamokai mobana hamikdash b'Yerushalayim. What it could have said, what the Rambam could have said, is he will build the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. So why does he write b'mekoimoi, in his place? B'mekoimoi roimeis. So we can say that this is actually hinting to the fact gamal mekoimoi shel melech hamashiach b'zman hagolus, that it's telling us that in the place that Mashiach will be in the time of Golus, lifnei shahareza Mashiach bevadai, before the time that he is designated as the Mashiach, hainu, meaning shebeyoisei begolus, that whilst Mashiach is still in Golus, shesham yoshev, where he is sitting, as the Gemara in Sanhedrin Daf Tzadik Ches Amud Aleph, page 98a states, that he's sitting at Pischa de Romi, by the gates of Rome. That's the reference of the Gemara over there. So we see the Mashiach is sitting, mamtin, and waiting, metzaper, and he is just waiting for the moment, ligol es b'nei Yisrael u'shchina imayim begolus, to redeem Yidden and the Shechina from Golus. Boine melech haMashiach mikdash mat. Whilst he's waiting in Golus, Mashiach builds a miniature sanctuary, the Beis Rabbeinu in Bavel, shehu me'en v'dugmas hamikdash b'Yerushalayim, which is a reflection and a dugma, an example of the Beis Hamikdash of Yerushalayim. K'moi beiknishta de Shaf Yosef, shenasa Mikdash v'yoshev sham. Like the Beis HaMikdash which has been relocated there. V'tur hachana leMikdash ha'osid, so Mashiach builds a Beis HaMedrash and a Beis HaKnesses where he is in Golus as a preparation for the future Beis HaMikdash. Sheyiskala tchila sham, and first the Mashiach will be revealed there in that place. Umisham yoshavim HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'nei Yisrael liYerushalayim, and from there he will return with Hashem, with the Shechina and the Bnei Yisrael to Yerushalayim. In footnote 38, the Rebbe writes the following: V'ulai yeshlema, perhaps we can say, Shemasash kosa b'medrash. There is a medrash in Yalkut Shimoni in Yeshaya, number 499. And the Yalkut says the following: B'shah shemelech HaMashiach ba, at the time that Mashiach will come, oimed al gag Beis HaMikdash, he'll stand on the roof of the Beis HaMikdash, v'hu mashmi'a lehem liYisrael, and he will announce to the Yidden, v'oimer anovim higia zman gulaschem, and he will say, humble ones, the time of your redemption has arrived. Now, according to what we've said, we can say that this koi, it refers al gag Beis HaMikdash, the Mikdash ma'at shebechutz la'aretz. It refers to the roof of the miniature Beis HaMikdash in the diaspora, shehu b'mekayim HaMikdash b'Yerushalayim, which is in place of the Mikdash in Yerushalayim, shenosa Mikdash v'yoshev sham. In other words, the Beis HaMikdash relocated in Golus to this place. Because after the big Beis HaMikdash, the true Beis HaMikdash, has come down from heaven to Yerushalayim, then there will be no need for Mashiach to stand on the roof of that Beis HaMikdash and to announce that the time of Geula has arrived. If the Beis HaMikdash is already built in its place in Yerushalayim, there's no need for that. Therefore, we may posit that when it says that Mashiach will stand on the roof of the Beis HaMikdash, it's actually talking about the roof of the Mikdash Ma'at, of the miniature Beis HaMikdash, of the Beis Rabbeinu in Bavel, that in the time of Golus, Mashiach stands on the roof of that Beis HaMikdash, and he announces that the time of Geula has arrived. Seif Hey. And we may add, what is the great advantage of Beis Rabbeinu in Bavel? That it has an advantage over all other shuls and Batei Medrash in Bavel. He knows about Milas Beis HaKnesses or Beis HaMedrash or Beis Rabbeinu, in addition to the fact that it is the Beis HaMedrash and Beis HaKnesses or Beis Rabbeinu, Gam Mitzad Hayosei Beis Rabbeinu. Principally, its advantage is that it is called Beis Rabbeinu. We don't call it the Beis HaKnesses or Beis HaMedrash Shel Rabbeinu. We just call it Beis, the house of Rabbeinu. Rabbeinu Stam, which is the Rabbeinu of the entire generation, the Chol B'nai Yisrael, who is the Nasi Hador. V'Rabbeinu shebebavel Rabbon shel Kol B'nai HaGoyla. He is the Rab, he's the Rebbe in Bavel, and he's the Rabbon, the Rebbe of all the people in Golus, in Bavel. As Rashi says that Rabbeinu shebebavel is Rav, and he was just called Rav. Similarly to Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, he was just called Rebbe. And this refers to Beis Shel Nasi Hador, Shahanasi Hu HaKoil. Rashi in Chukas, chapter 21, verse 21 says that Hanasi Hu HaKoil, that the Nasi of Yidden is like the entire Klal Yisrael, and therefore the Nasi of the generation is equal to the entire generation. And then when we say Beis Rabbeinu, Stam, we refer to the house of the Nasi Hador. Iker ha'inyan de hashras hashchina bebeis hamikdash hi b'Yisrael. The principal indwelling of the Shekhinah in the Beis Hamikdash is in Yidden. Mitzad ma'alosim shal Yisrael, because of the great advantage of Yidden, Yisrael v'kutshabrichu kol achad, as it says in Zohar, that Yidden and the Eibishter are one. K'meshakasav, as it says, v'osu li mikdash v'shachanti b'seicham. Make for me a mikdash so that I can dwell in you. B'seichai lo nemar. It doesn't say in it, ela b'seicham, but in you, in Yidden. Similarly, in terms of the indwelling of the Shekhinah in the time of Golus, in Bavel it resides where? In the miniature sanctuary, as emphasized at the beginning of the passage in the Gemara, what does it say? See how precious and beloved the Yidden are to Hashem, that in every place that they are exiled, the Shekhinah is with them. Not only that, the whole revelation of the Shekhinah in the Beis Hamikdash is because Yidden gathered there. As it says in Parshas Vayelech, this is the place that Yidden come and gather to see the face of Hashem in the place that He's chosen. Similarly, in shuls and bati medrash, in which 10 Yidden gather, for the Shekhinah rests on every 10 Yidden. As the Alter Rebbe brings in Igeres HaKodesh and Simon Chav Gimel, that he heard from his Rebbes, that if a Malach would be standing amongst 10 Yidden, even if they would not be speaking Divrei Torah, there would fall upon that angel, that Malach, a tremendous trembling, because of the level of Shekhinah which rests on the Yidden. And that's one of the reasons why shuls and bati medrash in Bavel are called the miniature sanctuary. Because in the Beis Hamikdash that all Yidden were gathered. Then you had the general Shekhinah resting there. Shenikras Knesset Yisrael, that's called the pool of the gathering of all Yisrael. Moker Knesset Yisrael shall matter, which is the source of Knesset Yisrael down below. Whereas the shuls and bati medrash in the lands which Yidden came in each different land and city, in which 10 Yidden gather, in those places like a portion of the Shekhinah gathers, whereas in the Beis Hamikdash, the entire Shekhinah is there. So based on this, we can explain and highlight the tremendous advantage of Beis Rabbeinu in Bavel. That since this is the house and the principal place of the Nasi of the generation, Hanasi hu akoil, and the Nasi is everything, shekoil kol ador, because he envelops within himself the entire generation. So therefore, in that place, you have the general revelation of the Shekhinah. Not just a part of the Shekhinah which is on 10 Yidden. However, this is a place where, since the Nasi who has within him all Yidden, therefore you have the Klolos HaShekhinah there. Me'en v'dugmas hashraz v'gilui hashchina bebeis hamikdash, which is like the revelation of the Shekhinah in the Beis Hamikdash, Shanasa Mikdash v'yashav sham, which was relocated to the Beis Rabbeinu. Umimenu nimshach hashroes v'gilui hashchina b'chol bati knesius v'bati midrashes ba'arotzes ashaborsham. And from that place, from the Beis Rabbeinu, comes the revelation of the Shechina in all other bati knesius v'bati midrashes. Like the Beis Hamikdash from which went out light to the entire world. V'yeshloiman, we may say, that the house of the Nasi of the generation, shekoil kol hador, who includes within him the entire generation, who al derech ubedugmes talpios, is like talpios, tail shekol pios poinim kidrashas chazal benegel Beis Hamikdash. It says that Yerushalayim is called talpios because it's a tail, a mound, to which all pios, all mouths, face. So just like Yerushalayim is called talpios, similarly the Beis Rabbeinu is like that. V'oid ve'iker, furthermore and principally, Mailas Beis Rabbeinu shebebavel benegel agula, is the advantage of Beis Rabbeinu in reference to the Gula. Rabbeinu, when we say Rabbeinu, Nasi Hadar, we refer to the Nasi of the generation. Hugama Mashiach Goyalon Shal Yisrael Shabadar. He is also the Mashiach and the Redeemer of Yidden in the generation. Kamoi Moshe Rabbeinu HaNasi HaRishon Goel Rishon Hu Goel Achron. Like Moshe Rabbeinu, who is the first Nasi, who is the first Redeemer and the last Redeemer. Ki Yodua, as is well known, Shebechol Dor V'Dor, that in every single generation, Yeshnoi, there is Echad Horoi Mitzidkosei Lias Goel, one person who is befitting, because of his righteousness, to be the Redeemer. Ulechasheyagia Hazman, and when the time will arrive, Yigala Elav Hashem Yisbarach V'Yishalchoi, Hashem will reveal himself to him and tell him to go and do his mission. And it's probable to say that he makes sense to say that that person is the Nasi of the Dor, Kimufurish b'Gemara, as the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, page 98b, clearly, Benigel Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, in reference to Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, Amar Rav says, Imin Chayahu, that if Mashiach is one of the living, Kagoin Rabbeinu HaKadosh, that he must be like Rabbeinu HaKadosh, like Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. Im Mashiach me'oison shechayin achshav, that if Mashiach is from a person who is living now, Vadai Hainu Rabbeinu HaKadosh HaNasi Shabadar, then certainly this is Rabbeinu HaKadosh, who is the Nasi of the generation. In footnote 53, the Rebbe writes, Lahoyer, Shebekol echad ve'echad miYisrael yesh nitzos Mashiach. In every single year there is a spark of Mashiach. V'al pizeh yesh letavech droshes chazal al apasuk dorach koichav miYaakov. And now we can put together the explanation of Chazal on the pasuk, which says a star will go forth from Yaakov, which is a reference to Mashiach, and it also is a reference to every single Yid. That both of these are true, because since every single Yid has a spark of Mashiach within them, as it says in Me'or Einayim Seif Parshas Pinchas, which is the level of Yechida, the Nitzutz, the spark of Yechida, which is the soul of Mashiach within. Therefore, since Hanasi Hu HaKoil, since the Nasi contains within him, his neshama, all the sparks of Mashiach of each and every single Yid, in other words, all the Yechida Pratis, all the individual Yechidas in Yidden, are collected and pooled in the Yechida HaKlolis, in the general Yechida soul of Mashiach. Therefore, the Nasi, he is the Mashiach of the generation. And from this we can understand that the principal Beis Rabbeinu of Bavel, who are Geula me Bavel, is the fact that from there will be the Geula, the redemption from Bavel. Al Yidei HaNasines Koach L'Chlolos Avidosim Shal Yisrael, through the empowerment and the avoda of Yidden, of the avoda of Yidden, lasis mi Bavel chutz la'aretz Eretz Yisrael, to transform Bavel into Eretz Yisrael. Kapiskam hayodua, as is well known this statement of the Tzemach Tzedek, Asay kan b'chutz la'aretz Eretz Yisrael, machda Eretz Yisrael, make here from chutz la'aretz Eretz Yisrael. She'inyin zeh nasa l'chol reish al yidei binyan bati knesias or bati midrashes mikdash ma'at ba'arotzes asher bo sham. That principally is achieved through creating shuls and bati medrash in Golus. Umehem nimshachas ha'kedusha b'chol eretz ha'amim, from which diffuses kedusha to the entire world. And through this, and through this, we hasten the fulfillment of the promise that Asida Eretz Yisrael shetispasha b'chol ha'arotzes, that Eretz Yisrael, say Chazal, will extend throughout all lands. Sheyeh kol ha'olam kulei oz b'madreges Eretz Yisrael da'achshav, the entire world will le'osid love in time to come be on the level of Eretz Yisrael as it is now. And then Eretz Yisrael b'madreges Yerushalayim de'achshav. Then the whole of Eretz Yisrael will be on the level of Yerushalayim of nowadays. And that's the meaning that Yerushalayim will eventually expand over the entire Eretz Yisrael. And in that Yerushalayim, which will extend throughout Eretz Yisrael, will be connected all the Batei Medrash and Batei Knesias to the Beis HaMikdash. And since the principal Beis Rabbeinu of Bavel, who kibbutz v'asifas kol Batei Knesias or Batei Mimroshe shebechol shebebavel l'kovim be'Eretz Yisrael, is the gathering together of all shuls and Batei Medrash in Bavel to bring them and fix them to Eretz Yisrael, mechuba leBeis HaMikdash, joining them to the Beis HaMikdash. Harihu loy rak HaMikdash ma'at ha'ikari shebebavel. So therefore, it comes out that the Beis Rabbeinu is not just the principal Beis HaMedrash in Bavel, shanos HaMikdash v'yoshev sham, the place where the original Beis HaMikdash relocated, ella, but in reference to the Gula, Gam Mokem HaMikdash Gufe de Lasid. The Beis Rabbeinu in Bavel is the actual part of the Beis HaMikdash of Lasid Lave, because from there it will come and be attached to that Beis HaMikdash. So even now it is part of that Beis HaMikdash. Shebo Yiskala HaMikdash de Lasid, because there will be revealed the Mikdash in the future. Umisham Yoshev Yerushalayim, and from there it will return to Yerushalayim. So therefore, the principal advantage of Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel is in reference to the Geula.